Good morning, Canada. Welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Today is November 5th, 2025. And we are watching Canada collapse right in front of our eyes. Depending what your perspective is, of course, right? So yesterday, November 4th, you had the budget that was announced. And it wasn't Justin Trudeau's 40 or $60 billion budget. It was a 78 point whatever in change deficit. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of zeros. That's a lot of spending. For a country that's not bringing in a whole whack of new money, that's a lot of spending. And it's fracturing. I'm at a loss for words because there's like breaking news that just took place right now, right before I went live. I'm at a loss for words because yesterday we lost somebody from the Conservatives. So the Liberals, up until 48 hours ago, had 169 seats. You need 172 for majority. Majority means you can do whatever, whenever. No one can block you. You could pass whatever you want. But yesterday, a Conservative said, you know what? I quit. And Pierre's like, okay, you're fired. And he walked over to the Liberals, giving the Liberals 170 seats. He's officially part of Liberals. Him and Mark Carney walked down the aisle in Parliament already together. It's official. And this is where it gets even worse, is they're going to get a majority government without an election, because there's already rumors that another Conservative MP is going to leave Pierre and walk over to the Liberals. And that would give them 171 seats. So no, that's not quite a majority. That would make Elizabeth May literally the tying vote, or that would incentivize one or more people to just go and join the Liberals. And I'm curious to know what they're getting in return. Are they getting money? Are they getting a pension? Are they getting financial incentives? Are they getting goodies? Like, what's going on here? Because it's kind of crazy if you think about it. And this is spurring a whole new set of ideas. People are like, hey, whoa, can this even be allowed? Is this acceptable? Is this legal? Unfortunately, the answer to that is yeah, it is acceptable. It is allowed and it is legal. It's not the first time it's ever happened. It's just happening at a very not so good time to people who are not Liberals. Are they going to reform this? Probably not. Probably not. Because it's just a part of how our monarchy system works, essentially, right? The ability to say no to your party leader and leave your party and either go independent or join another party has its good days, and right now it has its bad days. Very, very bad day. So here we are, faced with a potential Liberal majority without even going into an election. And they haven't even voted on the budget. They won't vote on the budget till next week, but they'll probably get more people to leave their parties and join the Liberals by the time they can vote for the budget. If you're not laughing, you're crying. I'm sorry. I'm speechless. I'm actually insane, or insanely at a loss for words right now. Because what the hell's going on? Like, we've seen the BC Conservative Party with John Rustad. Like, it's just imploded and people are like, screw you, I'm leaving. And he's like, you're fired. And then they go independent. They start a new party, one BC. And now it's like the BC Conservatives are like shattering. And I kind of called this like a little while ago. I was like, I think it's going to happen to the federal Conservatives. And people called me a whole bunch of names and slurs and whatever. And now it's happening in real time. It's like, these are one of the moments where I'm like, I wish I was wrong. And it brings me no joy to say I told you so. But here we are, faced with a on the brink of a Liberal majority without even an election. So it's a dark day for those who are not Liberals. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to take a look at before we get into the actual question period, meat and potatoes. So all I ask in return is, I know it's hard. Don't take it out on me. Don't shoot the messenger. But all I ask in return is for you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, please. Please don't take it out on me. I'm just the messenger, man. I'm not making any of these shots. I'm just pointing it out and delivering the news. Okay, so for those that need just like full context into what's going on, this guy right here, this MP, Chris D'Entremont, this conservative, what was a conservative MP, he got up and just left the Pierre's cabinet, just straight up. And he's actually interviewed about it. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to take a look because, well, he breaks his silence. So here we go.
If you could also indulge, how many other conservatives in your caucus feel the same way that you do?
Well, let's start with the story of how I got here. I would think over the last number of months, I wasn't feeling that I was aligned with the ideals of what the leader of the opposition had been talking about. So I've been sort of re-looking at, what my career is bringing and what I can do for my constituency. So over the last little bit, talking to many of my friends in the Liberal Party. As Deputy Speaker, I get to know a lot of those members personally, ask questions, see what's going on, and understanding the point that we are in Canadian history, where it's time to actually try to lead a country, to try to make it better and not try to knock it down, not to continue to be negative. In my case, as a Nova Scotian, we're always trying to find ways to work together to solve the issues that are important to our communities. And I didn't see it by sitting in the opposition. I saw it by being a part of the government caucus.
Sorry, and just in terms of how many other conservatives feel the same way that you do that are currently sitting in caucus?
Yeah, I would suggest that there probably are those that are in the same boat, but I will let them tell their stories if that time comes.
So the Conservative Party of Canada, the federal Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre, is kind of falling apart, right? And this is where it becomes very, very deep, because Canada's nationalism, okay, like proud to be Canadian, waving the Canadian flag, keeping your head tall, your chest up, saying, yeah, I'm Canadian. I can tell you where that comes from. It's been shaped and molded over the years by the Liberal governments, because historically Canada's been 70% Liberal, right? Like we've had Liberal government for 70% or more of the time. And within that 70% or more of the time, that whole like proud to be Canadian, like, yeah, I'm going to wave my flag. I'm proud of the colors. I'm proud of the leaf. I'm proud of the Great White North. Coo, 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 coo. The whole shebang, everything. Toonies, polar bears, everything, right? Everything. Tabarnak, ice hockey, right? Everything. All of that gets molded down and condensed into one thing. Proud not to be American. Okay, this is something that is very difficult for a lot of people to understand. But if you don't feel this way, welcome to the club. I don't feel that way. I'm not happy to be Canadian because I'm proud not to be American. I fucking love America. I wish there could be an economic merger, but that's just me, and that's a story for another day. You may not feel this way, but I guarantee you some of your family does, some of your friends do. Because at all times when you see on the news, when Canadians turn on CBC, CTV, whatever it is, and there's a school shooting that takes place in America, Canadians go, oh yeah, good thing we don't have those here in Canada, eh? But that compounds, and it's not just like school shootings, it's healthcare, right? A woman just gave birth to triplets in a Chicago hospital, and she was found with a $757,000 bill. I'm just making this up. She has to declare bankruptcy and has now started a GoFundMe. Canadians turn that on. Oh, yeah. Good thing we don't have that here in Canada, eh? Oh, man. Thank God we're not American. So that gets compounded. And those are two examples. And I could add more to the list, but we would be here for a very, very long day. And it's not like it doesn't happen with other countries. It's not like, oh, yeah, thank God we don't live in Luxembourg. Oh, yeah, thank God we're not Germans. Oh, thank God we're not Italians. No, it's always, thank God we're not American. Ooh, Canada doesn't have that. No, that's an American thing. So that adds up because it happens culturally and politically every day, subtly with the news and the media and our politicians and our schools, our education system teaches this, right? Canada knows where America is. And when you talk to America, like we know where the states are, like you may not know exactly where Kentucky is, but like, you know, it's probably in the center on the way down because it's warm. Virginia, well, I don't think that's on the West Coast. It's probably on the East Coast of America. Texas, well, it's that big thing down below in America. Like Canada knows the map of America. You ask Americans or Americans ask like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Saskatchewan. Oh, where's that? In Canada. Oh, okay, yeah, but like where's that? It's like, oh, you don't know? Like we know where America is and the parts of America. How do you not know where Canada is? And so then that adds up too. And those are compounding things. And so there's this elitist mentality that Canadians develop over time. And it just compounds because it's taught in our education system. It's taught with our politicians. It's taught with our mainstream media constantly. Even movies, our culture, everything is like, at least we're not American. And it's not like just a silly little like, oh, hey, we're going to like Canada versus America in the World Series. It's not just like a silly little competitive thing. Like it's actually a vicious thing. And we're seeing how vicious it gets right now with the like ongoing trade war. And Canada's like, yeah, we're going to like fucking make your life miserable. America's like, whoa, dude, we're just disagreeing on like a business transaction. And our Canadian politicians are like, yeah, we're going to fucking kill you. Like it's bad, right? It's really bad. And so that bleeds into our politicians. And unfortunately, it's not just a liberal thing. That's the craziest part is there's a lot of conservatives, a lot of conservative supporters, and a lot of conservative politicians that also carry that. And right now, the Conservative Party of Canada, okay, Pierre Poilievre's cabinet, his direction is a little bit lost when it comes to America. Because during the federal election, right before, there was that curveball by Trump, and Trump's like, haha, fuck you, Canada. And then Mark Carney was like, okay, well, I guess we're like saying fuck you back to America. And Pierre's like, yeah, Trump, Brad, man, what's going on? No, we got to stand up to them. And it was already too late. So the Liberals have done a phenomenal job by the standard of not like morally good, but the job of branding their party and just our culture as like anti-American. And right now it's anti-Trump. And the Conservatives don't win that race. They've never won that race. And right now they're losing that race. And so this guy right here, I can guarantee you, wants retaliatory tariffs on America, wants to stick it to America, wants to stand up to America, all those things that we see with Doug Ford, all those liberals, right? You kind of getting this? So the Conservatives that feel like they don't have that actual sense of direction of like, we need to be strong Canadians and work together and like stick it to America, are going to be dudes like this. And they're going to be jumping ship instead of trying to maybe reshape the Conservative Party or add a little bit more context to things. They're jumping ship to an existing rhetoric that is already anti-American, elbows up. And that right there is unfortunately the foundation of Canada, is the cultural foundation of like, hey, screw you, America, we're Canadian. And it's going to keep happening. Well, let's listen to what he has to say, because he's not the only person that's doing this. There's going to be another one actually today, probably.
Hi, Mr. Donchema. Nick Murray from Canadian Press. I know you just spoke of Mr. Poilievre and the direction he was going, but I'm just wondering whether the Conservative leadership style perhaps pushed you out of caucus.
Well, I think that's probably a part of it. I didn't find I was represented there. That my ideals of an Easterner, of a red Tory. I mean, quite honestly.
Eastern Canada, who to be the bad guy? They're quite liberal. They are quite liberal. The whole country is quite liberal, and right now, this is the problem with Canada is we don't have like we don't have a Republican type of party or messaging. We have the liberal messaging, and we kind of sort of have liberal light, or we have a like progressive conservative, because that's kind of what the Conservative Party is. Like, they haven't said they're going to deport people. Like, not really, right? Like, he's kind of tiptoed around it. So either you're like a full blown conservative and you stand by Christian values and you're like, hey, we need to make Canada like great again, not to hijack the Trump thing, but seriously, we need to get rid of people that are just that don't share our Canadian values and stop diluting what Canadian values are. You're going to be told you're racist for that. You're going to be told you're this and that and obic this and, whatever that you got fears of all these other things. No, man. If you want to keep Canada, you have to actually put in some measures to keep Canada Canadian, and it's being diluted. And if there's no clear distinction between the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party, like fundamentally with like their core values, I'm not talking about just like little one-liners and stuff like that, like the core values of the party and the sense of direction, then this shit happens. This shit happens right here, where people are like, you know what, I'm just going to jump ship, because you're not jumping. Okay. He's not like, it's not like going from breakfast to dinner where it's like a whole different course of meal, right? You're not going from bacon and eggs to steak and lobster. Like it's not that far of a walk right now from the Conservatives to the Liberals, is how some of these people are viewing it, right? And that's dangerous. That's dangerous, because you need the Conservative Party to literally be like very strong, true conservatives that are like just gonna say shit, and we don't really have that. We've got tippy toe stuff, which there's some of the repercussions, unfortunately.
Of trying to find ways to find solutions and help your community, rather than trying to oppose everything that's happening. And I think that's the opportunity that's being offered by Prime Minister Carney and the government caucus is to help find solutions at this critical time for Canada.
I'm also wondering if you can maybe contextualize the decision to leave with regards to what happened with your push and your bid to become the Speaker. Some MPs have told me that you looked dejected the day that you had to remove your name from the floor, and of course another one of the Conservative colleagues ended up being Deputy Speaker. I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit to that, about how that impacted this decision.
I mean, I think it was an awkward time. I was hopeful, as many people would be hopeful, but I did move on. The summer came, and we had a great summer of traveling around. It wasn't really in my mind. It's just looking at leadership styles and whether we're doing the right thing for Canada or we're doing the right thing for ourselves. I would rather be on the side of Canadians.
And just really quickly, I'm just wondering, did you think that there was a real risk the budget could fall with this government, and do you think that risk still exists?
I think the risk always exists. You still have to have your account correct. You need to make sure people show up for the vote and those kinds of things. I think it's important that we make that more sure. I mean, this is a budget for a generation. This has got some good stuff in it for communities like mine, and I want to see it pass.
Hey, Mr. Lanterma, just Marco Vigliatti from My Politics. Just a quick question: was there anything tangible, offered towards you by the Liberals? A promise of perhaps a position in cabinet down the line? Anything along those lines to get you to cross the aisle?
No, really, it had to do with my riding itself. Acadianapolis is a big rural riding with lots of fishery and lots of agriculture and a military base. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for them, to make sure that they have the housing and the infrastructures that they need. And I felt this budget was one that was going to provide that.
Last question, Jillian.
Some of your former colleagues have already been reacting to this news. They've called you a coward, disingenuous, and disloyal. What's your message to your former colleagues?
Well, I think they should look at themselves and see if they're offering the right thing to Canadians, of trying to build for the world. I mean, we have a great opportunity here in Canada, and rather than knocking people down, we should try to find ways to work together, and that's what I've always tried to do in my career.
Okay, so oh my God, it gets so much worse. Okay, because here is Mark Carney and Chris walking down Parliament this morning.
A good day for Canada. We're going to move forward.
A good day for Canada. Wait for it. They applaud. Sean Fraser, happy. Greg Fergus, happy. I'm assuming that's Greg Fergus. I just see a black guy. Unless there's another one. Oh, there's more. Okay, maybe that's not Greg Fergus. And then they start chanting Chris. Chris. There it is. Okay. So you might be angry, and rightfully so, but it gets worse. So yesterday, when that happened, that MP locked his profile on X. I know this is like crazy. It's like, what? Like, who cares about a social media status? Like, what does that mean to lock your profile? It means that all your posts on X, they can't be seen by anybody. It's like removing your account essentially, right? It's just locking it down. No one can see anything. No one can comment on anything. And that's to avoid there's probably a few different reasons why people do it. But when you're under immense amount of controversy, I can only assume it's to just let the noise blow over, let the news blow over, and just avoid like interactions with people, right? So that happened again today, but with another conservative MP. This is where it gets very dangerous, folks. If another conservative MP crosses the floor, then you could have this guy right here, Matt Genereux, will do that today. Elizabeth May will hold the balance of power. Now, who's Matt Genereux? This guy right here. Now, that's not a backbencher. We've seen that guy talk many, many times. We've seen him talk many, many, many times. And when you go to his X profile, he's locked his account. That's the exact same thing Chris did yesterday. The exact same thing that Chris did yesterday, Matt Genereux just did right now. I'm just going to leave that with you, okay? Does that mean that he's leaving the Conservative Party? Not necessarily. But there's already a significant amount of rumors within Parliament, and somehow that shit finds itself to be, okay? I don't know. I just got people messaging me, okay? And it's been handy. It's worked out in the past because we've been right about so many things. He's locked his account as of this morning. It wasn't locked 24 hours ago. What's going on, Matt Genereux? What's going on, bro? Are you jumping ship? And you know what's even crazier? Can anyone... We're going to do Dora the Explorer. Can anyone tell me where Matt Genereux is from? Anybody? Can anybody tell me where Matt Genereux is from? He's from Alberta! He's from Alberta, Maudit tabarnak, si callis. What the heck is going on, dude? What is going on? I don't even know what to think of this. But it doesn't matter what I think of this. Let's see what another Conservative MP thinks of this.
Well, last spring, Canadians elected a minority parliament and put a check and balance on the power of an untested prime minister. Mr. Carney is trying to manipulate that result and get a majority Canadians did not elect.
What does Mark Carney have to say about this? Let's have a look.
I want to thank my colleagues from the National Capital Region for joining me, and I would especially like to thank Chris D'Entremont, the member for Parliament for Acadie, Annapolis. I'm honored to welcome him as the newest member of our government caucus. Chris's decision to join the government caucus at this crucial moment for our country is exceptionally valuable and important.
How many Conservatives has your caucus approached about joining the Liberal Party?
Well, I'd say the following. First, I want to underscore what I said at the start, how much I admire Chris D'Entremont, appreciate his joining the government caucus at this crucial time for our country. And I think that's the point to all MPs, wherever they're sitting in the House. This is a time where we need to act as a country, be as unified as possible, to act boldly, and to invest in the future of Canada. That's what this budget does, and we'll speak to anyone, publicly or otherwise, that can support us. Mr. D'Entremont and I had a discussion in advance of his decision, as was appropriate, because he wanted, I'm going to speak for you, and you'll have a chance to speak to him afterwards, but if I may, I think he wanted to test what we were going to do in the budget and the scope of what's required, and to see that there was the alignment, and you can see that there is that alignment, and as I'll just reinforce, this is a time for us to come together as much as possible in the interests of our country.
I know you're willing to talk to anyone, but I'm wondering, are you or any members of your team actually in conversations with other members of the opposition to try to get them to join?
I'm in conversation with you right now, so I can't be talking to anyone else. But look, Parliament works well. I'm new to Parliament. My view is always I will talk to anyone. It's part of our job is to talk to each other. You get ideas. You learn a lot when you're listening more than you're talking. So we seek out different opinions. I do that. I do that with the premiers. I do with other members of Parliament. We'll continue to do that.
There you go. There you go, folks. It's happening. It's happening. Everything is about to change as we know it. Literally, we're going to have a Liberal majority without even having an election. And I just want to address something. This might get clipped up and put out as a video. But right now, as I'm speaking, this is done on a live stream. And I see somebody's comment down the live stream. I'm tempted to just unsubscribe to every political channel, hide all political stuff off of my algorithm, save up money, and move the F out of Canada. I can't anymore. Always Vibin made that comment. And I just want to say, you're not the only person to feel that way. I feel that way. I've got 4... I don't know, varying successful channels, right? And I love doing this. I love talking about politics. I never thought I would. I didn't study this. I shared my opinion during like the Freedom Convoy, and it took off, and it was like, oh, I guess I'm talking about politics. And before that, I lived in a van, and I made van life videos, and it was just like a lifestyle thing. And now I'm like talking about politics, and it is what it is, right? It is what it is. And I love it. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it. Like it's a fun part of my day. It's a routine. But there's many more days frequently now in a row where even myself, I'm like, this is starting to get toxic. Like this is starting to, I feel like it's affecting me. And I'm not saying that I'm like ready to walk away from this, but that feeling where people just want to like unsubscribe from political channels and just stop consuming the news, that's a very normal feeling for everything that's going on right now. And I'm not going to try to discourage people from that. If you want to do that, go ahead. But just know that I also feel that way. And I'm the one that is consuming way more of, not more than other people. I just mean like what makes it in a video versus what I actually consume. Right. It's like a chef, right? Like you bake or you make a lot of food, you cook a lot of food, and then what you actually serve is like a portion of it. Right. So that's kind of what's going on my end. So if I talk about politics for 20 minutes, I've consumed an hour or more of it, kind of thing. Right. Just as an example. And I also have those similar feelings. And so it's not a competition. It's not like who's consuming more. And I certainly didn't mean for it to sound that way. This is a live stream. And so I am just off the cuff, right? Off the dome, as Trudeau likes to say. But it is very draining, and it does feel very defeating. And for people that don't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, just know that there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other people in this country that also feel that way. And this isn't like a Braveheart motivational talk, but the government, sounds weird, wanted you to feel that way during COVID, right? They wanted you to feel defeated. They wanted you to feel like you were alone. They wanted you to feel isolated. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of what they're trying to do right now, or at least it's an effect. It's a byproduct of everything that's going on right now. And so you don't have to consume the news and be involved politically with just your time to feel like you need to stand and fight, but just do what's best for you, and just know that how you feel about politics right now and how it's overwhelming, man, millions of other people are also feeling that too. I unfortunately don't have the solution for it. Just know that sometimes it feels good to know that you're not alone in a situation. And this is probably one of them. This is probably one of them. Anyways, that's that piece. Sorry if that got all weird and shit, but nah, there you go. Okay, we're going to continue here. We are going to continue with what Mark Carney just said about U.S. tariffs. Let's have a look.
Morning, Greg. The Liberals writ large have run deficits for a decade now. This is also one of the largest deficits outside of COVID. Is there a philosophy behind this? Are you into modern monetary theory? Are you a Keynesian?
Come on, Greg, you know better than to
how
throw
can
these
Canadians
insults.
be presented with continuing budget deficits with no plan to balance?
That's pas tout. Okay. All right. First, we have the best balance sheet in the G7. We have one of the best in the OECD, so the 30 countries of the OECD. We have the second lowest deficit in the G7. We have one of the lowest deficits in the OECD. That continues to be the case over the forecast period. That's the first point. The second is the philosophy, the approach, as I think you know, or you would know from reading the first page of the budget, is that we are getting spending under control, slowing spending from 8% growth, which had been the case for the last decade, to less than 1%, so less than the rate of growth of the economy, by eliminating duplication, eliminating waste, cutting red tape, making the public service more productive, giving them new tools and making it more productive so that Canadians get not just the same service but better service with less. So we're doing that over the course. That's new. And any deficit financing is for the investment that is going to grow this economy. And that's the amount that leads to that $1 trillion of overall investment, which is worth, in the estimation of, well, half of that, candidly. It's only estimate. The estimate I gave you, the $3,500 per head for every Canadian, is based on only half of that amount. You'll find that in the budget documents. Hopefully you were in the lockup for several hours and you had time to read it. So that's the approach. And that's a different approach. It's an approach that grows the economy. And let's be clear where we are. We're in a situation where the change in U.S. tariffs, where the uncertainty caused by all the changes in the world and all the pressures in the world are holding our economy back. We choose to move forward. We choose Canada. We choose with confidence to invest in Canada. And that's what is going to bring us the prosperity that Canadians deserve.
Oh my goodness. We invest in Canada by going $78 billion into a deficit. Yeah. Well, as you can imagine, people are not happy with that. And one of the front runners on that unhappiness with it is Pierre Poilievre.
Liberals will now need support from other parties in order to have enough votes to pass this budget. Here's what opposition leaders had to say.
It was a very long speech, and given that this government is adding about $10 million to our national debt every single hour, I think we can say that while talk is cheap, it's very expensive when a Liberal finance minister does it.
I hardly see how, after having met with our caucus tonight, we could vote in favor of this budget. This is a red conservative budget, which Mr. Harper might have signed. And there's nothing for Quebecers in there.
We're not telegraphing anything. I'm a Jack Layton, New Democrat. We came to Parliament to make Parliament work. We want to be propositional, and we want to give this budget the serious once-over that it deserves. And we want to consult with Canadians.
Oh, yeah. Consult with Canadians. Well, Canadians have been telling you for quite some time that what you're doing is wrong, and the NDP doesn't listen. They don't freaking listen. We don't even have to worry about the NDP right now. That's the craziest part of all this, is the NDP is the least of our worries. They have been for the past couple of years, the forefront of our worries, but right now it's actually Conservative MPs that we have to worry about in this bizarre world where Conservatives are somehow jumping ship to the Liberals. It's a very weird thing. And if you're at a loss for words, just know that so am I. I can speculate as to why. I can put out a bunch of ideas. Are they getting paid? Are there incentives? Were they bribed? Were they threatened? I don't know, but it's all very, very bizarre.
Our senior business correspondent, Anne Gaviola, has been looking for what's in this budget for individual Canadians. Anne.
Well, Donna, the budget re-announced some commitments like the middle-class tax cut and scrapping the consumer carbon tax. But in terms of new things, not a lot of nuggets in the budget to appeal to everyday Canadians. There are items that are framed as lowering costs and protecting consumers that won't actually cost the federal government all that much, like a pledge to review bank fees and what financial institutions charge to send e-transfers and use ATMs. Also, a change that could be important to households living paycheck to paycheck. The feds are set to change the amount of money Canadians can immediately access from a deposited check, bumping it up to $150 from $100. The plan is also to allow faster access to funds deposited electronically, so a shortening of that waiting period. On the housing front, we already knew about the removal of GST for first-time home buyers.
Guys, Canada is saved because when you get a check for $200 and you deposit it, you used to have to wait and you could only have access to 100 of those dollars. But now you have access to 150 of those dollars. Oh my goodness, we're saved, man. All our problems are gone. That's incredible news. He says sarcastically.
As well as the Build Canada Homes Fund of more than $13 billion over 5 years. But surprisingly, nothing more or new aimed at improving housing affordability. Donna?
Right, and Gaviola, thank you.
The most important part was in that last 5 seconds.
Affordability. New aimed at improving. Surprisingly, nothing more or new aimed at improving housing affordability.
I love this so much. Not because this brings me joy, but because it's so pathetic.
But surprisingly, nothing more or new aimed at improving housing affordability.
Surprisingly, nothing new aimed at housing affordability. Yeah, but at least we can now access $150 immediately when you deposit a check instead of the measly $100, because we know that that's at the forefront of Canadians' minds, right? When you go to the grocery store, you're like, shit, I just deposited a check and the groceries are $125, but I only have $100 access. Oh, no, wait. No. With the new Liberal government, the new Liberal governments and the new Liberal government policy, I can now purchase my groceries because I have access to $150 with my freshly deposited check. I wish I just had like a table here that I could just turn around and fucking flip it when I'm angry. Just every time. Because I would be flipping it all the time. What the heck is going on in Canada? Does anybody know the answer? Because I don't. I see the retardation every day with like, hey, wow, look, Canadians got access to $150 on a freshly deposited check instead of $100. But the most important thing that we know is this right here.
Or new, aimed at improving housing affordability. Dollars over 5 years, but surprisingly, nothing more or new
aimed at housing affordability.
But when you listen to the government, they make this argument that this is investment that's needed to recharge, to recalibrate the Canadian economy in the face of Donald Trump's trade policies. How is this money not justified?
Not Canada's see what I'm saying? This is the stuff. This is the anti-American stuff. Donald Trump's trade policies, he's not well. We can't trust him. He's all over the place. It's always Trump's fault. Always. It's annoying to hear this.
Look, Michael, any family today that was looking to see lower grocery costs when they go to the grocery store, anyone that's seen their mortgage or rent doubled in the last 10 years because of failed Liberal policies, or anyone that's tired of seeing the increase in crime, they had no hope, and there's nothing in this budget for them. And believe it or not, the deficit is even higher than what Justin Trudeau had. And for someone who's a so-called banker and a great money manager, it's impossible to fathom that someone who calls himself a budget expert is going to spend even more money than Justin Trudeau. These are the same failed policies in the last 10 years that sent 2.2 million Canadians into a food bank into a single month, 700,000 which are children. And there's nothing in this budget to give those families a reprieve. And just like the public budgeting officer had said, that it's easy to say that it's capital spending, but the definition is so broad, it doesn't define anything. Anything can be an investment or a so-called investment in there, but spending is still spending. Debt is still debt at the end of the day.
Yeah, and people voted for this. People like this because you know what? Life is going to get worse but at least Canada has access to $150 off a freshly deposited check instead of the measly $100 that we once had, right? At least we have that going for us.
We're now getting word, and this is not news to you, that Chris D'Entremont, your former colleague, has now left the Conservative caucus. Is your party in danger of losing more members to the government and getting this budget passed?
Yes.
A true Conservative won't be able to vote for this budget that does not bring down the cost.
See, even he knows. He knows that there's more Conservatives that want to leave. Or else the answer would have been no. No one else is leaving. That we don't know why that happened. We're still trying to figure it out. But no, we don't have anyone else. If it was that clear that the Conservatives had their feet this firmly in the sand, then the answer immediately would have been no. Of course not. Fuck that guy, right? That guy, screw that guy. He's a liberal anyways. Get him out of here. Nope. That wasn't the answer.
Of housing that doesn't bring the cost of the out of control food inflation that's happening under the Liberals, or the fact that everything has just become more expensive. And for us to support something that a budget that literally is going to make life more expensive for Canadians, when more and more Canadians are lining up at food banks in record numbers, would not just be irresponsible, it would be the wrong thing to do for Canadians. We had 3 demands for this budget. They were very simple. Keep the deficit below $42 billion, get rid of the hidden food taxes that the Liberals have brought in, including the industrial carbon tax, which is going to increase, the food packaging tax, which adds on $1 billion, and get rid of Liberal inflation tax. None of those things happen, and it would be irresponsible on behalf of Canadians to vote for this budget that's going to make life more expensive.
Yeah, it's going to get passed. It's going to get passed because more Conservatives are going to be jumping ship. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more than just Matt that joins. I really wouldn't be surprised. Anyways, we're going to see what François-Philippe Champagne has to say about it.
So in looking at your budget, there seems to be 2 threads of criticism. The first one has to do with your tax measures, whether or not they have gone far enough to encourage investment in this country. We've heard business groups saying this is a start, but not enough, and you are going to need private capital to build this economy. What do you say to that criticism?
Well, I would say, honestly, if you look at the marginal effective tax rate, which is really what distinguishes, if you have to make an investment between different jurisdictions, whether you're looking at that level, we are going to be more competitive than the United States in terms of taxation. So that's the first thing. So people who are looking and say, where should I allocate capital in North America? Canada is the clear choice. That's the first one. And if you look at the productivity super deduction, I mean, this is something that business have been wanting. If you're a small business tonight, this is really good news, because the moment you invest now in plant equipment, in automation, in buildings to make sure you can manufacture in Canada, you have immediate expensing. I mean, this is like a game changer for entrepreneurs to supercharge their investment. And that's why I would say this is well done. The SHRED program, which is really that program for research and development, 60% of small business are using that. You know what they were asking us? Not only to make sure that we do what we had announced to enhance the program, but they were saying is making it more efficient. We've listened to them. We've said today, you know, before you had to make the expense, apply, and wait 2 or 3 years to see if it worked. Now you will be able to be pre-clear. So in a sense, you'll send what you want to do, and we're going to give you a response so you can go ahead with certainty and predictability. That is what business have been asking us to do. And I would say the tax deduction that we have, plus the investments tax credits that we have, makes Canada by large the most attractive place to invest.
Canada being one of the most attractive places to invest. I didn't have that on my bingo card. Oh my goodness. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. That's funny. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at something that is that speaks to me. Okay. We've already looked at Chris, the Conservative MP who's left. We've now looked at Matt, another Conservative MP who is thinking of leaving. He's locked his ex account, and chances are he's actually going to leave, right? It seems like the rumor is going to play out to be true. Pierre Poilievre hasn't really spoken too much about it, and I don't know what he would say. More of his MPs have been speaking about it, and I don't know if that's the best approach or if that's not the best approach. But what I can say is that Michael Barrett has been, I've said this before and I will keep saying it, I think that Michael Barrett holds very good conservative values. He's a family man. He's got a lot of kids. He's a devoted Christian. He's very well spoken. And this is what he has to say in terms of Chris, the federal Conservative, crossing the floor to the Liberals. And I'm not gonna provide any hints at how good or bad this is. I'm gonna leave that up to you to decide. Let's have a look.
Do you resign and ask for the comment?
Mr. D'Entremont says he's not the only one.
And he's a veteran. I forgot. Yes, and he's a veteran. Thank you. I forgot that. That's an awesome thing. I do personally think that there should be a bit of a mandatory service required to maybe not be a politician, but to be prime minister. I do firmly believe that. Okay, you should have to have 2 or 4 years or something. You should have at least gone through basic training in the military. Like, you should have a minimum requirement. And Michael Barrett was in the military. I don't know for how many years, but he's a veteran. Phenomenal.
Well, as I told your colleagues upstairs, all the questions should be for Mr. D'Entremont this morning. I would encourage you to look at his own words about his prime minister. We've been very consistent about what we've said our expectations were for this budget. And Mr. D'Entremont, let me just share with you his own words. He said that, quote, "We warned that the Liberals' out-of-control spending and massive deficits were irresponsible, but of course they did not listen. Now, after 6 months under a new prime minister who promised financial discipline, Canadians are still waiting. He said that he would be judged by the cost of the grocery store. Well, Canadians are judging him, and they're not impressed." So that's what Mr. D'Entremont had to say about Prime Minister Carney. And so here we have, as a member of Parliament, and Mr. D'Entremont, who said one thing and is now doing another, who said one thing to his constituents, that he would fight for an affordable budget to provide affordability for Canadians. And that's certainly not what we've seen. I can tell you that, along with my Conservative colleagues, that we've what we've said we wanted. We were very clear with the Prime Minister, gave him the opportunity to consult and to make adjustments where needed. If we truly are at this turning point, well, I'll tell you what the turning point is. It's more Canadians turning towards food banks because they can't afford to feed themselves. You look at Deloitte's report about the food packaging tax that the Liberals have kept in place, raising the price of fresh produce by 30%. You look at the industrial carbon tax and the effect that farmers are telling us that it's having on raising prices for consumers. That's why we're seeing people struggling with this affordability crisis. So I can tell you that it's pretty rare that a budget getting dropped and before we caucus for us to be able to say how we're going to vote on it, but it's crystal clear that the Prime Minister was not interested in providing an affordable budget for Canadians, and he's looking instead to try and provoke some kind of costly election. We're looking. That's a question for Mr. D'Entremont.
From your perspective.
Yeah,
But what do you think about him saying that other colleagues might join him, that he doesn't think he's the only one? Are you worried about other Conservatives crossing the floor and giving the
I'm not going to
majority?
engage in speculation on rumors. I'm going to tell you that it is crystal clear that this is not a budget that provides affordability for Canadians, and that's what they expect, that's what they deserve, and that's how we're going to vote. Have a great day.
Okay. I want you guys to tell me down below in the comments what you thought about that. I think that Michael Barrett is a phenomenal speaker. I think that when he's off the cuff, he does a great job. He's got a solid head on his shoulders. He's got a good sense of direction. And in terms of politics, I think he does politics quite well. And I think that this is a phenomenal answer. I do truly think that this was a phenomenal answer. But again, you're watching a video. Who cares what my opinion is? I want to know what your guys' opinion is down below in the comments. And then we're going to take a look here at the United States tariffs, because Trump's tariffs on Canada are going to the Supreme Court. And there's a lot of speculation as to whether the countries will actually receive tariff funds if the United States Supreme Court rules against Trump. Let's have a look.
A reminder that today, President Trump's key tool for deploying tariffs will face a critical legal test in the Supreme Court. The top court is hearing from states and businesses that argue Trump's use of a national security statute to hit nearly every nation with tariffs goes beyond the powers of the president. Trump used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977 for his so-called Liberation Day tariffs and fentanyl-related duties on Canada, Mexico, and China. The Liberty Justice Center, which is representing small businesses in the hearing, has said Congress would not have intended to hand unrestricted powers to the president. I want to bring in William Pellerin now. He's an international trade lawyer at Macmillan LLP. Good morning. Thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, like in the U.S., Canadians are watching this hearing very closely. What's at stake for Canada?
So there's a lot here riding on the decision in many ways. So first of all, striking down these fentanyl tariffs, the IEEPA tariffs, could provide some short-term relief for those exporters that are still subject to that tariff today, that 35% tariff for goods that are not meeting the CUSMA preferential exemption. Generally speaking, though, I think there's some expectation that the president has many tools in his toolbox. So even if this tariff law was stricken down, we might have to play a little bit of whack-a-mole because there's other tools in the tool belt that the U.S. administration could use. So some potential for relief. Generally, really important overall to see the extent of the U.S. president's powers and what's delegated to Congress, which could provide Canada with some ability to increase our bargaining power, for example, if the court was to strike this down.
If the U.S. Supreme Court does rule against Donald Trump, what happens next, William? And what happens to all that money that's already been collected?
That's, I think, the most important question here. So there's some potential that the courts could also require the refunding of tariffs that have been paid pursuant to that fentanyl tariff, which could provide for a major windfall of U.S. importers and in some cases Canadian exporters that act as the importers bringing it in. So there could be money coming back here. That's generally seen as a low likelihood, maybe 15-20% chance of success on the refund portion, because it's not necessarily the case that if the law gets struck down, that refunds will follow. So that's a big piece. Certainly there could be some money coming back to Canadian businesses.
And lastly, I wanted to get your take on what we've heard from the Prime Minister, who has said a number of times that compared to other countries, our tariffs, and I'm paraphrasing, aren't so bad. We do have some protection under CUSMA. Your thoughts on that? How does the situation with Canada compare to other countries? We've talked so much, even on this network. We all know how tough it's been for a number of sectors, lumber, steel, aluminum. What do you think, William?
Well, that's exactly right. It's a completely different situation depending whether you're in one of these sectors that is exposed to additional tariffs relating to those Section 232 sectoral tariffs. And the problem is that those tariffs, those sectoral tariffs, are starting to apply to more and more different industries. So we talked about steel and aluminum for a long time and autos, but those tariffs are also now being applied to wood products like kitchen cabinets and furniture products, copper products, and it keeps ballooning out. So I think there's more and more businesses that are being hit by those different tariffs that are not the ones that are currently subject to this appeal before the Supreme Court. So it really is different sectors of the economy exposed in different ways, and there's really start of some real harm in the Canadian industry, particularly for those that are no longer able to export economically to the United States. William Pellerin is an international trade lawyer at Macmillan LLP.
Oh, shit. People think they're actually going to get their money back from the tariffs. I think that's a bit of a pipe dream for some. I don't think that would happen, but we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. Then you have economists are saying that the Carney government didn't do enough to stimulate private sector. There wasn't enough spending. $78 billion wasn't a big enough deficit. You heard that right.
Let's get another perspective from Jimmy Jean. He is chief economist and strategist for the Desjardins Group. He was also in the lockup today reading the budget. Jimmy, what stood out to you?
Well, I think when you look at the headline number, 78, it's actually pretty close to our view, which was 75. So, and way below some of the more dramatic calls that this could be a triple-digit budget. So that was in a way reassuring.
You're talking specifically. I don't mean to interrupt, but you're talking specifically about the deficit numbers, right?
The deficit, the bottom line.
Yeah,
excuse me. So on the deficit front, looking a little bit better. Having said that, really this was called a generational budget, and we see a lot of the same announcements that have already been made when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to defense. So not a whole lot of new information on those fronts. What I was really looking forward to is specifics on how they were going to translate that very high ambition they're having at the public level, but to also engage the private sector, because we know when it comes to productivity and investment, it's not going to happen if the private sector is not on board. And part of their strategy is to looking to attract some private investment in some of the projects that they're selecting. But we were really looking for incentives, and that super deduction for productivity is part of it. Incentives to get the private sector, no matter what industry you're talking about, to really invest more in terms of R&D, in terms of innovation. And I would say the numbers that we're seeing in there are quite small. I would have hoped to see something much bolder in order to stimulate the private sector.
And they'll, of course, private companies will just be digesting this now, but have you gotten an early read on how this might be received, particularly when it comes to incentives for private sector investment?
Yeah, well, it won't hurt, but let's recall that we're competing against the U.S. and the U.S. just rolled out accelerated expensing, and they made it permanent and just across the board for pretty much any type of asset. We've kind of gone in that direction, but it's still limited. It's still set to end to start sunsetting in 2030, and from 2030 to 2033. So if you're a business, it's not like in the U.S. where you can count on that policy to be there pretty much forever. Here, there's still conditions attached, and there's still a signal that at some point businesses will not be able, and some businesses are planning really for multi-years, even decades ahead. So they have to factor in that this kind of policy might not be available down the road, whereas it is in the U.S.
All right, Jimmy Jean from Desjardins, thank you so much.
Okay, that's what the analysts are saying, eh? Not enough spending. Not enough spending. We need to spend more. I think that they've spent too much, but that's just me. Hey, I'm not the prime minister, and I'm not an economist. I'm just a regular dude that sees how much money our government has been spending on stuff and going, hey, I don't think that's sustainable. I really don't think that's sustainable. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think that it is sustainable? Do you think that they've spent enough money? Do you think they haven't spent enough money? I'd be curious to know what you guys think down below. Then we got to take a look here at the removal of the Ronald Reagan ads that Ontario launched. Let's have a look.
As the dust over Ontario's anti-tariff commercial begins to settle, there appears to be a shift in Premier Doug Ford's stance. Shortly after the president cut off trade talks with Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney asserted federal jurisdiction, a sign he was asking provinces to stay on the sidelines.
I'll just re-emphasize that it is the responsibility of the Government of Canada to have these negotiations.
While Premier Ford stands behind his decision to run the commercials, other premiers have started falling behind the Prime Minister.
Going forward, we're going to ensure that our communications are in line. When the time comes to speak with Americans, we'll do it in partnership with the federal government.
Premier Ford now suggests he'll do the same.
He is the Prime Minister. I'm the Premier. When it comes to national issues, making a deal with the U.S. and anyone else, that falls on his lap. I'm there to support him, suggest ideas, along with every other Premier in the country.
At the same time, Ontario is not backing down on its decision to remove American alcohol from store shelves, the only retaliatory policy that has stuck so far.
We took action early, and we're not backing down. We think it's the right thing to do.
Do you worry at all that keeping alcohol off the shelves will become the next irritant in the trade talks?
Anything could be an irritant. You know what? We have to stand firm. We have to let the Prime Minister negotiate a deal, and let's be clear, we need a good deal, not a quick deal. So we stand firmly behind the Prime Minister.
Even the opposition says it's not the right time.
I don't think we should end the ban on having U.S. alcohol on our shelves, because it's one of the leverage points that seems to be working and putting pressure on the president.
The Premier says he is willing to return American booze to the LCBO, but only if negotiations go well. At Queen's Park, Colin DeMello, Global.
But negotiations aren't going well, because negotiations have come to a screeching halt because Carney keeps doing things that are pissing off Trump, such as launching ads in America using American past presidents out of context, for that matter. Very bizarre. Anyways, love to know what you guys think down below. Can trade talks continue with America, or do you think it's just kind of this is how it's going to be for a very long time? Let me know what you guys think. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to embark on question period. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. There's going to be a lot of tensions in today's question period, given the fact that Conservative MPs, plural, are leaving, right? One Conservative MP already left. He's gone. He's a Liberal now, which means that the Liberals have 170 out of 172 seats needed for a majority. And there's already rumors, like I've said earlier on the stream, of another Conservative MP leaving. And they're I mean, the evidence is there. He's locked his Twitter account. If it wasn't true, why wouldn't he just post about it or do a press conference? So it's going to be interesting to see today's question period. There's going to be a lot of name calling, a lot of back and forth. And all I ask in return is for you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, because you're not going to want to miss a single one of these things. And let's have some fun today. Let's have a lot of fun, because this is going to be a bloodbath, to say the least. Here we go, folks.
In action on April 22nd, 2006, while serving in close protection in Afghanistan. Through Nancy, we honor not only Randy's sacrifice, but the legacy of all who have served and fallen in defense of Canada. The fallen and their families have given so much to our country, and we are forever in their debt. As the Silver Cross mother, Nancy Payne carries the weight of the personal loss of her son, Randy, and the grief of so many Canadian families who have lost their loved ones in service of freedom and Canadian values. We can't forget that. We must never forget them. We will remember them.
The honourable member for Brampton South.
Canadians from coast to coast join Sikh communities.
Hit the like button, guys, if you haven't yet already.
556th anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. It is birth anniversary, the first Guru and founder of Sikhism. Mr. Speaker, today we reflect on Guru Nanak Dev Ji's timeless teachings, Naam Japna, meditation, Kirt Karni, honest living, and One Ke Chakna, sharing with others. These principles are not only central to Sikhism, but they also resonate strongly with Canadian values. Guru Nanak Dev Ji defended equality and justice, advocating for the rights of women, a message that continues to reflect the values and uphold in Canada today. Mr. Speaker, these teachings are lived every day by Sikh Canadians whose contribution continue to enrich our country. Mr. Speaker, may the teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji continue to inspire us all. Happy Gurpurab to everyone who celebrates.
The honourable member for St. John, St. Croix.
Mr. Speaker, as we approach Remembrance Day, I rise to pay tribute to retired Master Warrant Officer Earl Eastman, who sadly passed away this year. Earl served 33 years in the Canadian Armed Forces and completed 3 tours on 3 continents. After returning from Afghanistan, he dedicated himself to serving veterans as president of the Canadian Army Veterans Motorcycle Union, 2nd VP of the Legion's New Brunswick Command, and Knight Commander of the Order of St. George. In 2022, Earl's public service continued when he was elected to St. Stephen's Municipal Council. Earl was a dedicated member of our community, but most of all, was a loving husband to Charlie, father, grandfather, and my friend. May Earl Eastman rest in peace.
The Honourable Member for Laval-Les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, I am taking this opportunity to recognize the extraordinary work of Mrs. Linda Delisle in my constituency of Laval-Les-Îles. Life is like a river with many sailors and leaders, but there are also plenty of people who are adrift. Sometimes we come across individuals with pure hearts who are like rafts that we can cling to. Mrs. Delisle is one such person. Since 2015, under her leadership, Manoir du Ruisseau has become a warm and welcoming place to live, where every resident is treated with respect, empathy, and kindness. She has fostered a culture of compassion and dignity, ensuring that seniors receive the care that they deserve. With her compassionate leadership style, she has put together a dedicated team that makes Manoir du Ruisseau an example of excellence. The Manoir team doesn't just view caring for seniors as an administrative task. For them, it's an honor to serve our nation's builders. Mrs. Delisle, on behalf of all Canadians, all Quebecers, and all residents at Laval, thank you, and thank you so much to the whole team.
Honourable member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lifelong conservative and friend, Vic Brandel was born in 1933 in Jeffrey, Alberta, and passed away peacefully at the age of 91 in Vernon, BC. Vic quit school during the Depression to work on the neighbor's farm until he went to work in Edmonton in 1950. By the age of 19, Vic had worked at a gas station, a drilling rig, and on a barge moving freight from Yellowknife, just to name a few. He started V.E. Brando Oilfield Construction in 1961 when he bought his first D7 dozer and grew the company to 100 pieces of heavy-duty equipment. Vic served on our local Reform Party, Canadian Alliance, and Conservative Party boards, finishing as our Director Emeritus. Over the years, Vic became a good friend, often stopping by for a coffee to talk politics and current events. Vic was husband to his beloved Edith, dad to Kevin, Barry, and Ron, father-in-law to Marnie and Larissa, grandpa to Noah, Nikita, and Eva, and brother to Roger, Bob, and Jim. Thanks, Vic, for everything you have done for our riding, for our community, and for our country. You will be missed, Vic.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab, an important celebration for Sikh Canadians. Today marks the birth of the founder of Sikhism, a spiritual leader who continues to guide millions of Canadians across the world. Guru Nanak Dev Ji taught us that there is one creator and that all human beings are equal. He emphasized the importance of living with honesty, integrity, and a spirit of seva. He called on us to earn an honest living, Gert Karo, share what we have, Vand Shako, and remember the divine in all that we do, Nam Japo. Through these acts of faith and service, Sikhs reaffirm the core principles of Sikhism: devotion, humility, and compassion. We are reminded of our duty to serve humanity and respect this sacred gift of life that we are blessed with. As we honor this day, let us reflect on Guru Nanak Dev Ji's timeless message of inclusion, kindness, and service, values that continue to strengthen Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, for decades in Canada, Conservative and Liberal governments alike have been steadfast leaders in the global fight to end polio. Partners include Global Citizen, Results, and the Canadian Partnership for Women and Children's Health. But the undisputed leader in this mission is Rotary International, where there is no bigger champion than Canada's own Jennifer Jones, their first woman international president just a few years ago. Rotary's vision statement says, "Together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves." Canadian Rotarians and Rotaractors live this out every single day. Whether building playgrounds and spray parks in their local communities or eradicating polio worldwide, these friends and neighbors stand shoulder to shoulder, roll up their sleeves, and just do the work. Today we are closer than ever to ending polio once and for all. Working together, we will win. And along the way, every one of us will be individually better for having taken part in the fight.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, today I would like to pay tribute to not one but two of my predecessors, both of whom, by pure coincidence, announced their retirement from professional life at about the same time. Yvan Loubier represented the riding of Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot from 1993 to 2007. He was the first ever Bloc Québécois MP in the region after the creation of the Bloc Québécois. He was widely regarded as an experienced and competent parliamentarian. After his departure, Ève-Marie Taïtilac took over in the 2007 by-election. She remained the Member of Parliament for the riding until 2011. She is known for her local involvement, her presence, and for being close to the people. I am very fortunate to personally know these two dedicated individuals who are also independentists with steadfast convictions. It is a true privilege to know them. Yvan and Ève-Marie, your retirement is well-deserved. Thank you for everything you've done for our region and for the country of Quebec. We will remember your contributions.
For Fleetwood Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to address a matter of grave concern: public safety in Surrey. Residents are deeply worried about their safety and the security of their livelihood. 74 cases of extortion are currently under investigation. These are not just statistics, they are families, entrepreneurs, and neighborhoods living in fear. With Bill C-14, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to work together across all levels of government to restore safety, confidence, and peace of mind. I want the people of Fleetwood Port to know that their voices are being heard, and our government remains firmly committed to ensuring justice and safety for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Food Banks Canada has given this Liberal government an F when it comes to poverty and food security. With Canadians paying over $800 more for food this year than they did last, it's no wonder food banks usage has skyrocketed across the country. The hidden Liberal industrial carbon taxes on fertilizer and farm equipment, along with the so-called clean fuel standard, keep on increasing the cost of food for Canadians due to the need to transport all our food. This has become so unsustainable that more families are going hungry every day. This Liberal government decided to announce a deficit of $78 billion, which will continue to drive up the cost of food in Yellowhead and across the country. Every hour, this budget adds $10 million to our national debt, which means $5,400 in inflationary spending per household.
Yeah, I turned on subtitles.
Imagine the impact of $5,400 would have on Canadian families. It's time for Liberals to scrap the hidden food taxes so Canadians decide how they want to spend their own money.
That's right. The honourable member for Milton East, Halton Hills South.
November is Women Abuse Prevention Month. 1 in 4 women in Canada report experiencing intimate partner violence in their lifetime, and alarmingly, those numbers continue to rise. In my community of Milton East, Halton Hills South, Halton Women's Place provides critical shelter, counseling, and support for women experiencing domestic violence. Last weekend, I joined their annual Hope in Every Step walk, an event that raises funds and sends a clear message of solidarity and hope to every woman seeking safety and support. It was deeply inspiring to see survivors, families, advocates, and volunteers, and many young men who came with their local sports teams. The Burlington Cougars, Iroquois Ridge Football, the Milton Menace, and the U15 jump basketball team led by Milton's own Raheem the Dream Chaudhry, who has been walking in this event since he was just 7 years old. Their participation is a reminder that ending gender-based violence requires all of us to stand together, challenge harmful attitudes, and foster a culture of respect, equality, and safety.
Shut the fuck up. Make life affordable.
For Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, Private Member's Bill C-291 passed with unanimous support in the last Parliament to replace the term child pornography in our laws with what it really is, child sexual abuse and exploitation material. Right. Sexual abuse and exploitation of children are some of the most horrendous crimes, and viewing child sexual abuse and exploitation material represents re-victimization of victims traumatized for life. Last week, the Supreme Court ruled that 2 men who had possession of hundreds of images and videos of children as young as 3 years old could not be imprisoned for a mandatory 1-year term.
No, they shouldn't be in prison. They should be
For the prolonged
killed.
period, these 2
Public
possessed
execution.
hundreds of images and videos produced by torturing innocent children. But the court applied imaginary scenarios rather than the facts in issuing this disgusting ruling. I urge the government to do the right thing, stand with children and victims of child sexual abuse and exploitation material, and invoke the notwithstanding clause.
Hear, hear!
Cut their wieners off and then cut them, I don't know, torture them or some shit. I don't want to get into details about torture, but the shit you see in movies, waterboard them, do all that stuff. Shouldn't be allowed to do that. Shouldn't get away with that either.
Basil alias Ojig of Maniwaki.
Can I say that? Is that too harsh? Oh, I don't care. I'll say it
and
anyways.
Catherine Riel. He served with courage and dignity during the Second World War, giving his life to service to Canada on August 28, 1944, during the Battle of Normandy. His name is commemorated in the Second World War Book of Remembrance, alongside that of his brother, Private Robert Simon Ojig, who also made the ultimate sacrifice while serving the Royal Regiment of Canada. Mr. Speaker, today let's honor the sacrifice of the Ojig family and their bravery, and of all soldiers from Pontiac-Irigan-Zibi who served and continue to serve for peace and freedom.
Honourable member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, this fall my office surveyed Southern Alberta residents about their priorities and expectations for this federal budget. An overwhelming 76% of respondents indicated the cost of living is their top concern, and 80% of business owners said the rising costs were hurting their operations. Interestingly, 88% did not believe that Canada's economic situation would improve in the next year, and sadly, they're correct. The Prime Minister's spend less promise has been shattered with an $80 billion budget deficit this year alone, the highest thing ever in Canadian history outside of COVID. This year's interest on the national debt will be a staggering $55.6 billion, even more than our health transfers. This budget is adding $10 million to our debt every hour, which equals approximately $33,000 for every Canadian and climbing rapidly. The Liberals need to realize that every dollar they spend comes out of the pockets of hardworking Canadians. My voters are demanding the Liberals stop the reckless spending that's driving up the cost of everything.
Here, great.
Here. The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, this week we are joined by over 80 outstanding educators from across Canada who are taking part in the Teachers Institute on Canadian parliamentary democracy, many of whom are here today.
Honestly,
as a
that'd be
former
one hell of a
educator,
chore.
I know how deeply teachers shape the minds and values of the next generation. Though I now serve in this chamber, I will always see myself as a lifelong learner, a lesson taught to me by many dedicated colleagues over the years. I'm especially proud to recognize my former colleague Darcy Moore from Forest Heights Community School, who's one of the lead organizers for this incredible
conservative
program.
MP that just
To the
swapped to
teachers here
Liberals,
today and to
letting
those in
them
classrooms from
talk
coast
as a
to coast
Liberal,
to coast,
and he starts
thank you for
blaming
the work you do each and every day
conservatives.
that inspires, challenges, and empowers the next generation of Canadians. Mr. Speaker, to all the educators, welcome to Parliament Hill. Thank you for the difference you make in the lives of young Canadians every single day.
Bravo.
Here we go. Nice Pierre.
Oral
questions. Questions.
Never in history has a budget ever forced Canadians to pay so much for so little. Every dollar that the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. He has broken his promises. He promised to spend less. He's spending $80 billion, $90 billion more net. That's $5,400 per family. He doubled the deficit of the Trudeau government, and he has added more debt than in any other year other than COVID years. Why is he doing this when Canadians cannot pay their bills? He's forcing them to pay even more. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canada is in a solid budgetary position. It is the second lowest deficit in the G7. It has the lowest net debt in the G7 and a budget that invests in Canada because we believe in Canada here.
And he's actually here.
This Prime Minister is becoming the most expensive Prime Minister in the history of our country. In fact, it is bankers who are profiting, and Canadians will have to pay $55 billion on the interest of the national debt, and that is more than we are spending on health transfers, and it is more than the government gets from the GST every cent that Canadians pay in sales tax is not going to doctors and nurses, it's going to bankers. Why did the Prime Minister send healthcare money to bankers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the debt burden right now is lower than it was when the government was Conservative, and that is true.
What?
It's lower than when the Conservative government was in power. Second, we are investing in Canada, and we are protecting healthcare transfers and money for education and for social programs sent to provinces.
Never before have Canadians had to spend so much to get so little. This budget, with its record deficit outside of COVID, is a deficit twice as the size of the one Trudeau left behind, and $16 billion bigger than the Prime Minister promised. It has, in this spending, $5,400 of extra costs for every family in more expensive government. While Canadians are already unable to eat, heat, and house themselves, why is this Prime Minister's costly budget making them pay even more?
Yeah.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Good question.
Mr. Speaker, this budget has 75% of the measures are for our sovereignty, to protect our borders, to protect our communities, to protect our way of life. And the balance is for affordability, a middle-class tax cut that the member opposite missed because he was not here. Mr. Speaker, this budget invests in Canada at twice the rate as any budget during this millennium. We believe in Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It is twice as expensive as any other budget, and it makes generational debt. And speaking of sovereignty, what about food sovereignty, Mr. Speaker? The Prime Minister's budget increases taxes on food production, with the industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, fertilizer, storage bins, and food processing plants. Sylvain Charlebois, Canada's food professor, says that it is arguably the most damaging aspect of the Liberal carbon tax. It is a tax across the supply chain that undermines the competitiveness of our agri-food sector. Why is the Prime Minister threatening our food sovereignty and driving up our food prices?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in the spring, this government removed the divisive consumer carbon tax, and that has a consequence. That has a consequence for any business, any farm that emits less than 50 kilotons, which is every farm across this country. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Climate Institute has done the analysis, and the impact of the industrial carbon tax on inflation is zero.
Come on, Pierre.
Apparently, the Prime Minister is still under the misconception that Canadians don't use steel. You remember that interview when he told CTV, he asked the CTV interviewer, "You don't use steel, do you, Steve?" Well, of course, farmers use steel in order to produce their food, in order to store their grains. Processors use steel in the apparatuses of their conveyor belts. The tax on fertilizer and equipment drives up the cost of food, not according to Conservatives, but according to Sylvain Charlebois. So is the Prime Minister going to tell Canadians that an industrial carbon tax on Canadian farmers is not driving up the price of...
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the impact of the industrial carbon tax on food prices in Canada is approximately zero.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Still thinks we use zero steel, Mr. Speaker. But on another subject, unfortunately a much darker subject. Last week, the Supreme Court ruled that a 1-year prison sentence was too much for possession of child abuse and exploitation materials. That sentence was already far too low for the two dirtbags who had literally hundreds of impressions and videos of children being tortured. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing invoke the notwithstanding clause in order to put the rights of children ahead of the rights of those who abuse them.
Don't jail those fuckers. Torture them back.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I join all members of this House in condemning the exploitation of children as the most reprehensible sorts of crime. Mr. Speaker, that is why this government will be bringing forth legislation to combat these crimes, to penalize those who are responsible. That works within our Constitution.
Fucking torture them back, dude. It's pretty simple.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, you are well known for your financial knowledge, and in theory, the Prime Minister is known for that too. But let's be serious. Let us not try to fool people. Let us ask the Prime Minister to ask why tax credits for oil companies, the organization of FIFA, or health transfers are assets for the government.
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, one of the most important aspects of the budget is the tax credits for investment into clean electricity. That represents $4 billion for Quebec for investments there. That is one of the main reasons to support this budget. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. I don't expect the Prime Minister to want to answer my question. A tax credit. You are paying money to someone who gets the benefit of that credit. It comes out of government coffers. You cannot say that it is an investment, the value of which you are keeping with on your asset sheet. Does the Prime Minister think that accountants are idiots and that Canadians are idiots as well?
That's absolutely what they think.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
They're taking us like fools,
Mr. Speaker,
man.
I would like to underline that Hydro-Quebec will be one of the biggest beneficiaries of this budget, and the environment will be the other big beneficiary. With it, when it comes to carbon capture, the truth is that right now, Quebec is using 350,000 barrels of oil a day. So carbon has to be captured for the production and transport of those barrels. The member for Belleuil-Chambly. It seems that there's embarrassment in the air, Mr. Speaker. So that's wonderful if money is going into good projects, and yes, it has been decided that it is good, but it is an expenditure. It's really, the Prime Minister must recognize that his budget is an austerity budget so that he can fund oil companies at Quebec's expense. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It's always Quebec. That's all they're worried about is themselves.
Mr. Speaker, this budget is an investment budget. It's a budget for generational investment. The pace of investment is twice as quick, and this budget is going to stimulate $1 trillion worth of investment by the end of the decade. It's a growth budget for Quebec, for Canada.
In addition to cooking the books, the Prime Minister also rigged his GST rebate on housing to make sure that 95% of home buyers would not qualify for any break at all. Zero, zip, zilch. And the Prime Minister, meanwhile, puts a new rising tax on steel, aluminum, glass, cement, concrete, all the things that go into making a home. In other words, the industrial carbon tax is a housing tax. With Liberals already having doubled housing costs, will the Prime Minister axe the industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford a home?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Leader persists and doubles down on these fake, imaginary taxes that exist only in his head and on the talking points that he hands out. What I will tell you is this is a budget where conservative-minded voters, people who think of voting conservative in elections, you know what they like about it? They like the hope. They like the ambition. They like the economic growth. They like bringing this country together from coast to coast to coast to invest in our potential, to invest in our young people, and to grow this country to be the best in the G7, Mr. Speaker. That's what they like.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
They're just making shit up.
Mr. Speaker,
Come on,
he
Pierre.
says it's imaginary, but it's in his budget. Does that mean the budget is a fictional document? Here it is on page 106, strengthening the industrial.
He's going to get in trouble for having a prop. Yeah, there it is. You should be able to use a budget document. It's not a prop, it's a real. It was just tabled yesterday.
The honourable member may continue now that the prop has been put away.
Mr. Speaker, they say their budget is a prop and its contents are imaginary. We're in real trouble.
It's pretty friggin' funny.
Homes take steel, they take aluminum, they take concrete and cement and glass. The industrial carbon tax drives all those things up with our youth unable to afford homes. Why don't they get rid of this tax so that we can bring down the cost of housing?
There you go.
Speaker, you know what this budget does? It builds communities. It builds opportunities for young people in our communities. It ties this country together in a common refrain of hope and optimism and investing in ourselves. We're going to be investing in new homes. We're going to be investing in housing for young people. We're going to build it with that Canadian steel. We're going to build it with that Canadian lumber. We're going to build it with that best thing that we have, that Canadian ingenuity that exists in the youngest and the oldest, the skilled tradespeople of this country. We are going to build Canada. Conservatives like that, liberals like that. Let's build the country together.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Unbelievable.
After the Prime Minister's depressing speech demanding young people make more sacrifices, I think the Liberal House Leader asked ChatGPT to write him up a little poem about how he could inject hope into his message. It didn't work, Mr. Speaker. Young people need houses for them to have hope. Houses are needed to raise families. Houses are needed to build equity and collateral and credit history. But the Prime Minister insists on applying an escalating industrial carbon tax that will raise the cost of everything that goes into making a home. So with the Liberals doubling housing costs already, why won't they get rid of this tax?
There you go. That's good. That's good.
Of housing and infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know housing is top of mind for young Canadians, and we have heard them loud and clear. Budget 2025 delivers on affordable housing for young Canadians. It focuses on affordable housing and co-ops. It delivers on GST for first-time homebuyers, up to 47,000 homes that will see a big reduction in GST. Building all of these homes creates jobs for young people in the trades, great jobs for young Canadians. This budget delivers affordability for young Canadians.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has doubled lineups at food banks to well over 2 million people. And right now, food prices are rising 40% faster in Canada than they are in the United States, which means it can't be some global or foreign factor on which we blame those rising costs. But Sylvain Charlebois, Canada's leading food price expert, says the industrial carbon tax, which is not only still in place but is rising quickly in this costly budget, is partly to blame. So single mothers, small businesses, and seniors can feed themselves while they get rid of this terrible tax on food.
I mean, they just gaslight you.
As a former single mother,
myself, I can tell you the kinds of things that single mothers, in fact families, are looking for is affordability. That's in this budget. Whether it's a middle-class tax cut for 22 million Canadians, whether it's protecting $10 a day childcare, by the way, a game changer for women, especially single mothers.
Why does that sound so weird to say?
Permanent, whether it's investing in building trades, the kinds of infrastructure investments that will lead to good paying jobs. We're here for young people, Canadians. Young Canadians.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, since they started promising that program, the number of children lined up at food banks has doubled to 700,000. And food prices are actually rising 40% faster in Canada than they are in the United States of America. The questions I've been asking are to the Prime Minister. Apparently, he doesn't have time to answer questions about homes and food when Canadians cannot afford to feed and lodge themselves. So once again, will the Prime Minister get rid of his regressive industrial carbon tax on Canadian foods so that single mums and seniors can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians don't have time for the kind of antics that the Conservative Party performs every single day. What Canadians want is investment in their families, investment in their children, investment in the kinds of infrastructure in small communities all across this country, including in my riding, that are going to make life affordable, that are going to build up the kind of infrastructure that allows for us to get ahead. And Mr. Speaker, lots of Conservatives feel that way in my riding. They told me so, and they've donated.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, the last Liberal budget had a fiscal anchor of deficits of less than 1% of GDP. This budget doubles those deficits, averaging 2% of GDP. The last Liberal budget had a fiscal anchor of declining debt to GDP. This budget increases debt to GDP. Will the government admit that its fiscal anchor is weaker than the previous Trudeau governments?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Speaker, I know they're having a bad week over there.
Oh, God, this guy
Yesterday, we tabled
again.
an historic budget to build our economy for Canadians, by Canadians, so we will never be reliant on one country again. We will spend less on wasteful spending so we can invest in our country and build our country.
Carney's literally trying to rely on
the strongest economy in the
China,
G7.
but okay.
Mr. Speaker, from Canadians from coast to coast to coast, support our budget. It's time for us to come together in this House, like Canada. Time for the party opposite to support our budget.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, last July, bond rating agency Fitch warned that a material rise in the debt to GDP and a material rise in our deficits could lead to a credit downgrade. This budget doubles deficits and leads to ever-increasing debt to GDP. Will the government acknowledge that it is putting this country's credit rating at risk, not only to mention that it's saddling younger Canadians with a mountain of national debt?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Speaking of young Canadians are looking at this budget for generational opportunities. We are unlocking new markets for them. Budget 2025, we're getting young Canadians, young entrepreneurs ready to get export ready through our SMA readiness program. Secondly, once they're export ready, we will launch the Can Export program to support them, attend trade shows globally to showcase their goods. And once they have orders ready to go out, EDC will step in to support them to get into new markets around the world. This is how we're helping young Canadians and young entrepreneurs access new markets and create jobs here at home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, there's been a lot of talk about a generational deficit of $78 billion in the budget, and it's true. What are the main points of this budget? The defense is the main priority, and the end to the struggle against climate change is done. There's even more credits for oil companies. These are all choices that Stephen Harper would have made because they are conservative choices. It's so conservative, in fact, that a conservative member became Liberal. And so we have a Liberal deficit with conservative priorities, and through it all, why is there nothing for the priorities of Quebecers? The Honourable Member of Industry, the Minister of Industry. I know my colleague very well, and I know his writing very well, and there's something that is clear, and that is in his writing, when you talk about expenditures and on defense, that has an impact in Mirabel, that has an impact at CAE, and for Airbus, for Pedro Dextron as well, it's going to have an impact on thousands of jobs in Mirabel. And my colleague right now is saying that this budget is not delivering anything for Quebec and for Mirabel. I think maybe he's disconnected from reality. The honourable member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, a deficit of $78 billion will have impact on the coming generations in my writing, but there's worse than that. The Liberals are creating this deficit, and they're announcing cuts to health transfers, and they're not investing anything for seniors. And they're refusing a preferential rate for the first-time home buyers, and they're replacing the only housing building program that works in Quebec by Build Homes Canada, which is going to slow everything down, Mr. Speaker. How is it possible to create a deficit of $78 billion and by giving up on all of Quebecers' needs? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, we were asked to invest more to build hospitals. We said, what did we say? Yes, excellent idea. We'll put it in the budget. And you can read, he could read the pages in the budget and he'd see it there in black and white. Quebecers said, we want you to protect our language and culture. We want you to invest in that because it's important to us. The Minister of Finance and the Minister of Culture, Quebec and Canadian Culture, promised to invest more than ever in art and cultures. So when did you vote for this member?
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, 6 cents of every dollar was used to pay interest on the national debt. Yesterday's budget confirms that that number will more than double to 13 cents of every dollar. Wow. That's almost $76 billion going to bankers and bondholders to pay interest on the national debt. That's even more than the government will receive from taxing in GST. This, when the finance minister says he's making generational investments, is he just saddling the next generation with his unaffordable budget?
Yes.
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite simply is overlooking that Canada has a AAA credit rating, right. The lowest net debt to GDP ratio.
They're obsessed with the AAA credit rating thing.
Has been world acclaimed in terms of a home for direct foreign investment, top of the G20 there, Mr. Speaker. The difference between that side of the House and this side of the House is that we believe in Canada. We believe in Canadians. We're diversifying supply chains and we're investing in our population so that we become the strongest economy in the G7. We ask them to join us.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Speaker, the difference is that every Liberal finance minister seems to keep breaking their fiscal promises. They said the deficits would be low and temporary. They were long and very large. They said the deficit would be capped. They said the debt to GDP ratio would continue going down. The ratio went up and the deficits blew through the cap. Now we have a new finance minister with a new, weaker fiscal anchor. Will the finance minister confirm that this anchor is weaker, and how long before he breaks his promise too?
The Honourable Minister.
They also haven't mentioned anything yet of the floor crossing.
Mr. Speaker, we are a nation of builders. We're building it for young people. We have the best net to GDP ratio in the G7. We are building affordable homes. We're investing in trades and hospitals. We're creating 100,000 new summer jobs. We are investing in entrepreneurs. Why, Mr. Speaker? This is a budget of resilience. This is a budget of strength. This is a budget of hope. Why don't the Conservatives join us and build Canada strong?
The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just delivered one of the most expensive budgets in Canadian history. He promised fiscal responsibility during the last election, but Canadians got a staggering $80 billion deficit instead. That's $80 billion in new debt that will drive up the cost of food, housing, and everything that Canadians buy. After hearing all this talk about change, Canadians are left wondering one thing. How is this Prime Minister's out-of-control spending any different than Justin Trudeau's?
The Honourable Parliamentary Mr. Secretary, to the Minister of Finance.
Canadians across this country empowered us in the last election, and now we're empowering them in Budget 2025. A budget that will make generational investments to create the strongest economy in the G7. That's exactly what we're doing. We're building major infrastructure, homes, and industries. We're protecting our communities, borders, and way of life, and we're empowering Canadians with better careers, strong public services, and more affordable life. We know a strong country can be even stronger, but it takes vision and leadership. It's too bad the Conservatives have neither.
The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister isn't investing. He's spending on the backs of future generations. In fact, because of his reckless spending spree, Canadians will be paying over $55 billion a year in interest alone to service the debt. That's more money spent on interest payments than on health care transfers to help patients. Does the Prime Minister realize that his spending is lining the pockets of his banker and bondholder friends instead of funding our doctors and nurses?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister doesn't only have a vision for what this country is now, but what it is going to be. That's why he has assigned multiple ministries to work on transforming healthcare in those critical spaces in the north, spaces that always lacked investment on this side of the House, spaces that never seen the light of day with having support on this side of the House. We're inviting them to finally come into those spaces, support Indigenous people with those critical services. It is something that we know all voters are asking for.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable-Lot-Binière. A costly budget that will make life even more costly for Canadian families. With the budget he tabled yesterday, the Prime Minister will go down in history as the biggest spender in Canadian history. Almost $80 billion in deficits. He promised to spend less, but he's spending $90 billion more. That's $5,400 per family, Mr. Speaker. And you know what? All that money comes straight out of Canadians' pockets. Why has the Prime Minister chosen to drive up the cost of food even further with the most inflationary budget in our history? The Honourable Minister. Canada has a AAA credit rating and the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. That's our fiscal position. But what's in the budget? We're doubling housing. We're investing in infrastructure. We're raising the salaries of our CAF members higher. It's unprecedented. We've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. That's what's in the budget, Mr. Speaker.
So they're fudging the numbers. They're actually raising wages of CAF and saying that we're contributing more to NATO. The
Honourable Member for Halifax.
It's a weird little loophole.
Speaker, my riding of Halifax is home to a thriving defence sector with more than 10,000 Canadian Armed Forces members. I know that many of my constituents, including those in uniform, watched yesterday as the Minister of Finance tabled Budget 2025. Can the Minister of National Defence speak to the new defence investments Canada is making?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Speaker, through Budget 2025, we're investing over $81 billion over the next 5 years to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in our Canadian Armed Forces. This is a generational investment in defence infrastructure, in capabilities, in training, and of course, in our incredible personnel. From Halifax to Latvia, Mr. Speaker, when the brave men and women of the CAF answer the call to serve, they know we've got their backs, and they know it's time to build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Newtecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Budget of broken promises is a disastrous attempt to put out the fire they started. Not only is the Prime Minister fueling inflation with the largest regular budget deficit in Canadian history, he's also hiking up the industrial carbon tax, driving up food prices. Families are already struggling to afford food, housing, and everything else. So why does this Prime Minister want to raise the industrial carbon tax and make life even harder for Canadians?
Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, we're creating opportunities for Canadians.
Budget 2025 is about building Canada, creating opportunities for young people. We're building St. John's strong, Etobicoke strong, Vancouver strong, Halifax strong, Fredericton strong, Winnipeg strong, Bradford strong, Mr. Speaker, city by city, community by community, for young people, for Canadians.
All those places have an increase in homelessness and drug addiction and housing crisis.
Systems, community centers, homes that Canadians need, major projects in the national interest, Mr. Speaker. We're doing it with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, and Canadian union workers at the
Honourable Member for Newton-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
In this mess because of 10 years of Liberal deficits and taxes. Now this costly budget will make things worse by adding $10 million to our debt every hour. It's like cranking up the furnace and leaving the windows open, Mr. Speaker.
That's
Canada
a good
is the
analogy.
only G7 country where food inflation has gone up 4 months in a row. And by increasing the industrial carbon tax and driving up inflation, this budget will only raise prices higher. Why is this Prime Minister so intent on making life unaffordable for Canadian families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Speaker. I ask the Conservatives to join the rest of the country and love our country. I love Canada, Mr. Speaker. They always seem to call Canada down. On this side of the Assembly, we are marketing Canada, something you guys should do. On this side of the aisle, we are defending Canada, Mr. Speaker, something that you guys should do as well. At the end of the day, we're building, you're tearing down Canada. Shame on you. Let's get on the same page. Canadians deserve that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's costly budget is full of broken promises and is the most expensive in Canadian history. It has the largest deficit in history outside of COVID. It will drive up the cost of food, housing,
insane.
and everything else that Canadians buy.
It's the highest deficit
to
we've
lower
ever
food
seen.
costs for Canadians, but they chose to make food more expensive by increasing the industrial carbon tax, driving the cost of fertilizer and farm equipment. Why is this Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
They will be voting against food in schools for children, voting against an income tax cut for Canadians, voting against $75 million in apprenticeship training, voting against a refundable tax credit for personal support workers, voting against $45 million in funding to address violence against women, and voting against crucial supports for seniors like old age security. Canadians want to know, who are these Conservatives fighting for? Because it certainly isn't them.
The Honourable Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
We're going to be voting against adding an additional $300 billion in debt for our future generations.
There you go. Well said. Well said. Well said.
The food wholesale prices have increased in Canada versus the U.S., and that the one factor driving this is the industrial carbon tax. He also said that he's deeply concerned and expects that food inflation will continue to be a problem moving forward. Experts are warning that food prices will continue skyrocketing. So I ask again, Mr. Speaker, why is this Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive for all Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our budget delivers historic investments to build Canada strong. This means strong families and strong communities from coast to coast to coast. That includes supports for youth in building skills to help them find and access high-paying careers. We are investing in training and supports for 20,000 youth facing employment barriers. We are investing in an additional 24,000 Canada Summer Jobs opportunities this coming year, co-ops, internships, apprenticeship opportunities for over 55,000 post-secondary students. Canada's new government has a plan to invest in youth. I encourage members opposite to support this plan and to vote for the budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday Canadians got a taste
of one of the greatest sins a government can commit: overpromise and under-deliver. The Prime Minister promised a generational and transformational budget crafted by the so-called master of monetary policy. Instead of reducing the deficit and showing fiscal discipline, he produced one of the costliest budget deficits in our nation's history. Rather than providing relief to Canadians by reducing the industrial carbon tax, he chose to increase it. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister raising the industrial carbon tax and making food even more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This budget is about focusing on youth. Our government is investing in youth, particularly Indigenous youth. Investments like in Inuit Nunagat University. It'll be a landmark step forward for education and reconciliation in Canada. It'll strengthen local economies, build capacity in the north, and support Inuit-led research. We hope the members opposite will support this initiative and vote for the budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Thayendanegea.
Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, food professor, has quoted, "That's been our concern from day one. The gap between wholesale prices in Canada versus the U.S. food wholesale prices have actually increased, and we believe that one factor driving this is the carbon tax. It doesn't take a central banker to figure out that eliminating the industrial carbon tax will help lower food prices. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister choosing to raise the industrial carbon tax when so many Canadians can barely afford groceries?"
That's a great question.
Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Climate Institute most recent research shows industrial carbon pricing have essentially no cost on groceries. In the face of uncertainty, Canadians are going to build the future we want to build for ourselves. As we work for the build the strongest economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker, our new government is helping our agriculture, fish, and seafood sectors adapt and respond to the economic challenges. This includes a new trade diversification strategy and $75 million of agri-marketing. I suggest they dig out their red and white sweaters and get them on and get on the bus.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, this budget proves one thing. The Liberals don't understand how real Canadians live. Every dollar this government spends comes straight out of Canadians' pockets, and under this Prime Minister, everything costs more. After years of inflation and higher taxes, they've chosen to raise the industrial carbon tax. That means higher prices at the checkout line. Why is this Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, when we invest in unions in Windsor, we all win. Mr. Speaker, and we are empowering unions. We're empowering unions in Windsor. We're empowering unions across the country to train our young people, because in Budget 2025, we invested that we're meeting our campaign commitment to double the Union Training Innovation Program, $75 million to help young people train to build Canada with Canadian lumber, Canadian steel, and Canadian unionized workers, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have tabled the most expensive budget with the biggest deficit in the country's history outside of the pandemic. This cost of this Liberal budget will drive up the price of food, and it's an irresponsible attack on our food security. Meanwhile, over 2 million Canadians are using food banks, and that will skyrocket with a deficit of nearly $80 billion. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister stop waging war on farmers and finally come up with a real plan to lower food prices? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have to admit I'm a bit surprised by the question from the member from the Conservative Party, because when she was a member of the Liberal Party in Quebec City, she voted in favor of putting a price on carbon. And so she'll be very relieved to learn that the industrial carbon price doesn't apply in Quebec, because Quebec has its own system. So it's just hypocrisy coming from the other side of the House. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. While Canadians tighten their belts, this government keeps on spending recklessly. They've just added $90 billion in spending, or $5,400 per household. That's less money. This is going to affect people in Charlevoix. According to Sylvain Charlebois, the gap between wholesale food prices in Canada and the U.S. has grown, and the carbon tax is a major factor. Canada is the only G7 country to have had 4 consecutive months of rising food inflation. Why is the Prime Minister raising the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive for everyone?
There's something seriously wrong with the Liberal government.
I'll repeat what the Prime Minister said so that about the impact of the industrial carbon tax on food prices. It's virtually zero. And my colleague talked about conservative hypocrisy when it comes to food security. This is just another one of their inconsistencies. When she was in Quebec City, they did put a price on carbon, and it didn't stop there. Every day they vote against our initiatives to help families, whether it's food school programs, the child tax benefit, and so we will do without any lessons from the other side. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, Canadians rely on strong and reliable infrastructure every day, from safe roads and bridges to clean drinking water and modern public facilities. They expect the government to build, protect, and strengthen communities through historic investments. Can the Minister inform the House of the generational infrastructure investment planned in Budget 2025? The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for that question. Canadians need strong, resilient communities supported by reliable infrastructure. Budget 2025 launches the Building Strong Communities Fund, a historic $51 billion investment to deliver modern infrastructure, enable new housing development, and strengthen communities across the country. Together with our partners, we will deliver the infrastructure Canadians rely on every day.
The Supreme Court has ruled that a mere 1-year mandatory prison sentence for the heinous crime of possessing child sexual abuse and exploitation material is cruel and unusual punishment. The criminals in this case possess materials depicting evil acts against children as young as 3 years old. Conservatives believe it is outrageous that these types of child predators could walk free with less than a year in prison. This court decision must be overturned using the notwithstanding clause, but the Liberals have refused to act. Why are they more concerned with protecting the rights of these vile predators than the rights of these innocent victims?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Go in prison and torture them.
Mr. Speaker, let me be unequivocal. Child abusers are heinous criminals and should be treated as such by Canada's criminal laws. We will be moving forward with legislative solutions that will give clear directions to the courts to ensure that serious crimes are met with serious penalties. If the Conservatives want not only to ask questions in the House, but actually achieve progress on this file, they can stop the obstruction on the Strong Borders Act, which is meant to give powers to law enforcement to actually stop child abuse that we know is happening. It's one thing to talk in the House. It's another thing to cast a vote in a way that will make a difference. I invite them to join the cause.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Criminals who possess child sexual abuse and exploitation material deserve lengthy prison sentences. They cause unimaginable suffering and harm to innocent children. These precious kids will carry the scars of what was done to them for the rest of their lives. Conservatives and Canadians are calling on the government to invoke the notwithstanding clause and overturn this appalling Supreme Court ruling immediately. The Liberals refuse to do so. Why are the Liberals more concerned with protecting the rights of guilty pedophiles than standing up for the rights of innocent children?
Well said.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we're going to be bringing forth legislation that is going to address this particular issue. But I would like to ask why the Conservatives have been against every measure that we have put forward to protect our children, Mr. Speaker. We brought an online harms legislation.
Shut the hell
they
up,
voted
you bury
against
other
it.
weird shit
We
in
brought
there.
lawful
It's not
access
about the
tools
kids
for
at
law
all.
enforcement. They are against it. Mr. Speaker, why are they protecting child abusers?
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Two men pleaded guilty to having hundreds of images of innocent children. They were sexually abused, they were exploited, they were tortured. The Supreme Court made a decision that a 1-year jail sentence was too harsh. Conservatives vehemently disagree with this decision. The Liberals have an opportunity to use the notwithstanding clause and take a stand for innocent children. Why is this government concerned with protecting the rights of pedophiles instead of standing up for those children?
Yeah, man.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, I have been speaking to lots of families that have been victims of crime.
That's right.
And Mr. Speaker, many have been asking for online harms legislation. We brought legislation like that in this House. And that member, Mr. Speaker,
That's right.
was active in voting against it and made sure that didn't pass in this House.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, law enforcement is also asking for tools to catch predators. But the Conservatives, guess what, are against it, Mr. Speaker. So why are they so concerned about the privacy rights of criminals instead of protecting our children?
Okay, colleagues, order. The
It's
honourable
getting
member for
crazy.
Peterborough.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected us to build, protect, and empower. In the North, that means reliable partnerships first and results people can trust. We have listened at kitchen tables across the North, and Budget 2025 reflects their voices. Could the minister share how this budget delivers with Indigenous...
Sorry, but a member is asking a question, and there are multiple other exchanges happening across the floor. I don't know. I couldn't identify the voices, but there were many voices. It's okay. It's okay. I understand. Okay.
It was their side that interrupted.
It was both ends. Okay, we're going to start from the top. The honourable member for Peterborough.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected us to build, protect, and empower. In the North, that means reliable partnerships and results people can trust. We have listened to kitchen tables across the North, and Budget 2025 reflects their voices. Could the minister share how this budget delivers with Indigenous partners so communities see results where they live, and how this approach makes the North a driver of Canada's prosperity and a pillar of our sovereignty?
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, Northerners asked for transformative change, and our new government answered with generational plans to build, protect, and empower. This means skills, homes, and hope for Northern youth. Our budget delivers year-round routes and ports across the Arctic Corridor and the Churchill Gateway to keep Canada strong and free. Through Major Projects Office, projects will move faster with Indigenous partnership. So this means building with the North for the North.
Here, 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 here.
The honourable member for Poilievre, Jacques Cartier. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Liberals tabled a budget with a deficit of nearly $80 billion. Did you hear that right?
80 billion.
Nearly $80 billion.
Yeah, that's bananas.
That's huge. And the impact will be catastrophic. It's just the same old, same old. And what's more, the Liberals had the chance to reduce the cost of food by scrapping the industrial carbon tax. But what did they do instead? They increased it. Nearly $80 billion taken out of Canadian pockets, and nothing to counter food inflation. Can this Prime Minister stop breaking his promises and finally control his inflationary spending? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My mother knows the difference between an investment and an expense. My kids get the difference. And this budget is an investment in our Canadian youth, in our own resources, so that we can get through this crisis.
It's a tremendous amount of debt
Canadians
for investment.
elected us to do that, and we will do it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A lot of Canadians don't seem to know that between the day a budget is tabled and when it's voted on, the government can make changes. I desperately hope, and that the answer will be yes to this question, is the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance prepared to be flexible, work in a spirit for the national interest, and be prepared to make changes in this budget before it comes to a vote?
Good question.
No, he won't be.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, of course we are always listening to Canadians. What I would stress to the honourable member is that this is a budget that invests historically in climate competitiveness in this country and getting Canada to net zero by 2050 and making sure that Canada remains a leader in the worldwide fight against climate change. I would invite her to compare us to any country around the world, especially our neighbours to the south. Put this in perspective and understand, and as I know she will, that this is an historic effort on an historic issue, and it's an historic budget, Mr. Speaker.
So, translation, we know better than anybody else, and if you don't agree, you're against us.
And that puts an end to question period.
If you don't agree with us, you're against us, is basically what he just said. Absolutely pathetic. I would actually be interested to know what Elizabeth May's proposals are for changes to the budget. She is very anti-oil and gas, and she's already said in the past that if there's anything in there that's oil and gas, she cannot, in good faith, for the future of her granddaughter, vote for anything that is pro-oil and gas. So it could be like 99% in agreement. Elizabeth May could be 99% in agreement with the budget, but if there's anything in there that's pro-oil and gas, she's already said so many times that that she wouldn't vote for it. But I'd be interested to know what Elizabeth May's proposals are. But again, nothing today. That's it. Nothing today. We're going to have to wait to see how tomorrow goes. So I'll see you guys back here same time tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace and love. By the way, I've already posted on House of Canada the highlight between Pierre and Carney, where he brought a prop and got in trouble. So if you haven't yet already, go check that out on the channel. It's already live. I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.